Hello soulmates, you're welcome back to my channel. So in this video we'll be learning how to make the hip and butt pad. So you can see how it is on my body. This is exactly what I'll be showing us in this video, how I achieved this on my body. So the upper part is not included though, just the hip pad and the skirt part. So if you want to know how to get it done, let's get right into it. The first thing you need is your skirt pattern, your front and your back pattern for skirt. Now you can see that for the back pattern I have my zipper allowance on it. So and again at the side there is no side seam. I did add side seam to it. Please, you don't need your side seam, like your side joining allowance, you don't need it at all. So now we'll be working on the front pattern first. So the first thing you need to do now, from your waist, you can see I have my waist, I have my hip line, and I have my under butt line. So the first thing you need to do, from your waistline, you will come down by 1.5 of an inch. Then you will go to the hemline. Then from the hemline, you will come up by 2 inches. Now from the beginning of the video, you saw the length of the gown I'm wearing, right? So from the hem, you come up by 2 inches. Then from the hip line, this is the hip line, you will go in by 5 inches from the hip line. Please go in by 5 inches. From the waist, come down by 1.5. From the hem, come up by 2 inches. From the hip line, go in by 5 inches. Then from the 5 inches, we'll be connecting to the waist line and to the hem point that we have marked. So you can see how I'm connecting it with my curve ruler. So you just place your curve ruler that way and connect it. So after connecting it, we will go to the back pattern and also connect the back pattern. So you see this part that we're already curving out, this will serve as the hip pad. This is what we'll be using to cut our hip pad. So you just label it appropriately, the upper part and the down part. You can see the D for the down part. Then for the back pattern, we'll be doing the same thing. From the waistline, come down by 1.5. Then from the hem of it, come in by 2 inches. Now after that, on your under butt line, on the under butt line, come up by 1 inch from your under butt line. Can you see? Come up by 1 inch from your under butt line. Then after coming up, just make a straight line a little that will serve as a guide. Then you come in by 4 inch on that 1 inch you came up with. Come in by 4 inch, mark it under your new line you came up with. So when we'll be connecting now, we'll be connecting straight. It will be serving as a guide. Then from the hip line, come in by 1 inch. Don't, after the zipper allowance, you see the straight line I have there, come in by 1 inch on the hip line. Can you see? So from that 1 inch now, we'll be connecting to the waist. Then we'll connect to the 4 inches on the under butt. Then we'll connect to the 2 inches we came up with from the hemline. So you can just see how I'm connecting it. Make sure you connect yours the same way. So first of all, you connect to the 4 inches we came in with from the under butt line. Then from there, you will connect to the 2 inches we came up with from the hemline. So after connecting, you can see that this on the hip part now, the place is sharp. So you just blend it a bit. So you can see how I'm blending it, just blend it out. So after blending it out, you label it also the same way we label the front pattern. You just label it, then you go ahead and cut it out. So you can see me cutting it out. You just go ahead and cut it out like this. Then for the front that we've already drafted also, we will also go ahead and cut the front out. So please, one thing I want to tell you is that you see me labeling it the back, you also label the front. One thing I want to tell you is that when you draft your skirt pattern, you should already have cut on your material before you are now using the paper to cut the hip pad, because you can see how I'm cutting the paper like this. It's better you cut on your material before coming for the hip pattern. That's exactly what I did in the video. So this is the front and the back ready. So I'll go ahead to cut on my foam. So the foam I'm using is about 3/4 of an inch. I think is more than half an inch, and I feel like it's too thick. So if you ask me, I will say you should use something that is lighter than this. I don't know, it depends on you though. If you want the hip to be very much, you can use this one. So now I've gone ahead to cut. Can you see what I have? So after cutting now, I've cut two pairs, for a pair for the front, a pair for the back, which is 2 right? So you can see me placing the paper on it so that I will know which side is the lower part and which side is the upper part. Can you see what I'm doing with the paper? So it serves as a guide for me. Please don't throw your pattern paper away until you are done sewing. So the next thing now is for me to go ahead and trim the foam. You see the edges of the foam, I'll be trimming it round. But before I trim, I will be placing them together, front and back and front and back. You see the way I place them, so that I will not mistake. And when you're trimming, please, you see how I'm trimming it. When you're trimming, you make sure you are trimming on the same side. The same side you are trimming for the back, trim the same side for the front. Don't trim the upper part for the back and go to the lower part of the front to trim. Excuse me, it will not rhyme. Do you understand? So you can see how I'm trimming it. So this one that I'm trimming like this will give me, the edge will now be very slim. Do you understand? If not, ordinarily you can see that the foam is fat, the edges are fat, and by the time you sew it like this, it's not going to come out well. So you have to trim it. You trim it. If you have patience to trim it very flat, make sure you trim it very flat. So now you can see that I've already trimmed that part, and I'm already trimming this part. So this is how I'll be trimming the 4 of them, right? I'll go ahead and trim the 4 like this. So after trimming the 4, I'll go ahead and apply my hairstay. Please, you need hairstay for this video. I will prefer you use hairstay than paper stay because it is more durable. You know you'll be washing it, and by the time you start washing it, it is this hairstay that will hold it intact so that your foam will not worn out. Hope you understand. So this is my hairstay. I will go ahead and iron my hairstay on it. You will iron on the front, you will iron on the back, like you are ironing on both sides of the foam. You are just covering it completely with the hairstay. Do you understand? So now this is how you'll be placing it in between the hairstay, then you iron it properly. So I'll go ahead and iron on all of them. Then after that, this is what we have. You can see, and I've also gone ahead to label it. You can see that the edges are flat, though not really very flat. So you can trim it to your satisfaction anyhow you want it. Do you get? So now this is me still placing the paper to check if my placement is correct. So the upper part, the lower part, the upper part, the lower part, you can see. And I went ahead to label it on the hairstay also. So I have the upper part, I have the down part. Please don't forget to always label your work so that you don't make mistake. If you make mistake, you've spoiled it. So the next thing now, I'll go ahead and run a stitch around it like 2 times. You can decide to run it 3 times or more. It depends on you. So this is it. I've gone ahead to run stitches around it, 2 lines. I just run around the 4 of them. It makes the edges tiny. Do you understand? It makes the edges tiny. That's why you run the stitches. So now the next thing, after running stitches on the 4 of them, you can see how I'm placing it. Upper part to the upper part, lower part to the lower part. So the next thing now, you place them together and you will join it. So I'll go to the machine and join everything. this is what we have after joining them together. Then you open it up. You can see how nice it is. You can see how neatly done it is. So the next part now is to add it to the skirt. You must have joined your skirt. So this is the skirt. I have joined my skirt with the seam allowance I added to the pattern. So in this video, this is the lining. Now please, I know you'll be wondering, I'm using the fabric for both lining and the main material. You can see that I just brought the other part to show you the main part of the skirt. So this is the lining part, and it is the lining part you will attach your hip padding to. Do you understand? Please don't forget, you attach your hip pad to your lining part. So now you just place your material from the waistline. Remember, we came up by 1.5. We came down by 1.5. Now I'm coming down by 2 inches because when I was drafting the skirt, I added half an inch to the upper part. When I was cutting on the material, I added half an inch to the upper part for joining. So if I should add the half an inch to the 1.5, that's 2 inches, Abby. That's why I came down by 2 inches, and I'm placing my hip pad from the 2 inches. Then I will pin it appropriately. Now, when you're pinning it to it, please open your seam. You can see what I'm doing. Open your seam. I've gone ahead to open the seam, and I marked the 2 inches back. So open your seam so that the hip pad will go in between the seam. Hope you understand. So now this is what I have. You can see how I'm pinning it. You can see how I'm doing it. So I'm just putting it in between the seam, like I'm opening the seam. Make sure you open it very well, because if you don't stretch it very well enough, you might have some excess material. Do you understand? So when you're doing it, make sure you open it very well when you're pinning your when you are pinning your hip pad on the fabric. So after pinning it on it, the next thing now is we'll be going straight to the machine to sew. You can see it on this other side. You can see how well relaxed it is. You can see that it's coming out nicely. So now we'll go to the machine and sew it round. We'll be going to the machine to do that together. So this is me on the sewing machine. So the next thing now is to sew it round. And please, when you're sewing it, make sure that you are pushing the fabric, like you are just stretching the fabric out so that you don't get excess on it. You don't get excess fabric at the area of the hip pad. So you can see how I'm stretching the material out. Make sure you open it wide enough, stretch it properly, so that at the end of the day, no part will be packing. Do you understand? So stretch it. You can see how I'm stretching it. You can see how I'm stretching it, right? That's how you should do it, so that you will not have any excess material. So you can see how I'm just running it on it. So it's basically you just placing it on the fabric, then you sew it round. So people might decide to use needle to tack it, but I prefer this one because I feel this one is more secure. Do you understand? So now you can see how I'm running it round. So I'm just going to run it round with just one single straight line. And please, when you're running it, don't take more than a quarter of an inch to run your stitches. If not, you just go and run a part that is too much and the edges will be popping out. Do you understand? So you just make a tiny stitch. So now I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what we have. You can see what it looks like. You can see how neatly done it is. There is no excess material anywhere. So I will do the rest for the other side also. So this is it. I've gone ahead to sew the other part. I've attached the other part to it, and this is what we have. So at this point, we'll be turning the lining with the main fabric. So this is the main fabric. They are the same fabric, and my lining is shorter. Why? Because I don't want the joining to be at the bottom. I want it to go in a bit. So my lining is shorter with about 2 inches. So now to join the linings to the main fabric now, I will place the down part from the lower part now. I will place them together, the lower part of the lining, the lower part of the main fabric, then I will run a straight stitch on the lower part, the down part. You can see my label. So now I've gone ahead, see what NEPA did to me there. I've gone ahead to run a straight stitch on the lower part, then I will go ahead to join the sides. So I will make sure that the both fabric are equal. So when I make them equal, this is what I have on the lower part. Can you see it? So I'll go ahead and join the sides together, and this is what I have after joining the side. I've joined the both sides together, which is the center back where my zip will be, because you know we've already joined the side to fit the hip part, so it's only the back that is open for the zipper. So now I'm just turning it around to the right side. So after turning it around now, I'll go ahead to fix my zip. So because I'm making a gown, I will attach the upper part of the gown to this skirt part now. Then I will attach my zip, and that's all for the video. You can see how it is. So after attaching my zip, you see how neatly done it is on my body. So this is it. I hope you find this video helpful. This is it on my body. I hope the video was helpful. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it. Thank you very much.